I was fired for telling the truth, humiliated in front of everyone. They called me a fool, a troublemaker. But a few years later, the same man who destroyed my career was sitting across from me begging for a job. My name's Daniel, and 3 years ago, I was just another hardworking employee at Westridge Dynamics, a rising tech company. I wasn't the smartest in the room or the loudest, but I was honest, sometimes too honest for my own good. I joined the company right after college, full of energy and ideas. My boss, Mr. Carter, seemed like a visionary back then, confident, sharp, always smiling. He said things like, "We're a family here, Daniel. Honesty and loyalty, that's what I value most." I believed him. For 2 years, I gave that company everything. Late nights, skipped weekends, endless coding and testing. When others left at 5, I stayed till midnight, chasing perfection. And when the company landed a big government contract, Mr. Carter told everyone it was because of my project. He shook my hand in front of the team and said, "This guy's going places." I remember feeling proud because finally my hard work was being seen. But something changed after that. The company started growing too fast. Suddenly, Carter wasn't talking about teamwork anymore. He was talking about profits, image, and control. I started noticing things, numbers that didn't add up, expenses marked as miscellaneous, projects signed off that never actually existed. At first, I thought it was just accounting mistakes. But one evening, I found an internal report by accident, a file that shouldn't have been shared with my department. It showed inflated figures sent to investors, fake project updates. Even my name was used on things I'd never done. My stomach dropped. It was fraud, plain and simple. That night, I didn't sleep. I just kept replaying everything in my head. Mr. Carter's smiles, his big speeches about honesty. It all made sense now. The next morning, I went to his office. He was on a call, laughing. When he saw me, he waved me in. "Daniel, my star programmer." "What's up?" I took a deep breath and said, "Sir, I found something you need to explain." His smile froze. I showed him the file. He looked at it, then looked at me, for a long, silent minute. Finally, he leaned back and said, "You weren't supposed to see that." I asked, "So it's true?" "Daniel, listen to me. This is business. Sometimes you have to play the game to survive." I stepped back. "That's fraud." His tone changed. "Watch your words, son. You're in deep enough already." But I didn't back down. I told him I couldn't be part of it, and that if he didn't fix it, I would report it myself. The next day, I was called into HR. They said I'd been violating company policy and accessing restricted data. As I left the building, my coworkers avoided my eyes. Only one, Emma, whispered as I passed, "I'm sorry, Daniel. They made us sign statements." I drove home in silence that day. Everything I'd worked for, gone. My name, reputation, income, all shattered. Over the next few months, I tried to find another job, but every interview ended the same. They'd smile, thank me for coming, and then nothing. I later found out Mr. Carter had called my potential employers, telling them I was unstable and a security risk. He didn't just fire me, he blacklisted me. For a long time, I was angry, bitter. But one day, I realized something. He might have taken my job, but he didn't take my skills. So I started again, from scratch. A small freelancing gig here, a client referral there. I worked from my tiny apartment, barely surviving at first. But I was free from lies. I built honest software, solutions that helped small businesses track finances transparently. People trusted me. Word spread. 2 years later, I registered my own company, Clear Ledger Technologies, and soon investors came knocking, the same kind of people Carter used to lie to. I promised myself one thing. This time I'd play the game better, but fair. I had no idea, though, that fate was already setting the stage for my ultimate revenge. Because one morning, as I reviewed new job applicants, A familiar name appeared on the list. Carter, James. I froze when I saw the name. Carter, James. My old boss, the man who had destroyed everything I worked for, was applying for a position in my company. I stared at the screen, unable to believe it. Part of me wanted to laugh. Part of me wanted to scream. But mostly, I felt calm, coldly calm. I remembered the day he fired me, the way he smiled as if he had won something I hadn't even realized was a battle. The long nights of looking for work, the endless rejection letters, the silent humiliation of being blacklisted. And now, here he was, potentially walking right into the very company I had built from scratch. I called Emma, my assistant, and asked her to set up an interview. She hesitated. "Daniel, are you sure you want him here?" I smiled softly. "I want to see him, face to face. Let's do this professionally. Nothing more, nothing less." The day of the interview, he walked into the room wearing a suit that looked far too expensive for someone who had been unemployed. Or so I thought. He didn't recognize me at first. That was fine. He never needed to know I remembered every single detail of the misery he had caused me. "Mr. Carter, thank you for coming," I said, motioning for him to sit. "Tell me why you applied to Clear Ledger Technologies." He cleared his throat and smiled. "I've always admired your work, Daniel. Clear Ledger is impressive. I want to be part of it. I believe my experience can contribute." Experience. That word made me bite the inside of my cheek. Experience at stealing, at lying, at manipulating everyone around him. But I didn't react. I nodded politely, letting him speak. As he went on about his skills, his leadership, his supposed failures since leaving Westridge, I listened. I asked questions, probing carefully. He spoke with confidence, unaware that I had records of every misdeed, every manipulation he had committed in the past. When he finally finished, I leaned back in my chair. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. One last question. How do you handle accountability?" He looked puzzled. "Accountability?" "Yes, when your actions have consequences, how do you respond?" I watched him shift in his seat. He was uncomfortable now. I didn't have to raise my voice or scold him. The power of knowing the truth, of holding the upper hand silently, was already mine. I always take responsibility," he said cautiously. "That's important in leadership, isn't it?" I smiled, a slow, controlled smile. "Yes, very important. We value honesty here, and clear records. I assume you can handle being transparent?" He nodded eagerly, unaware of the sharp edge behind my words. I gave him the assignment, something minor but with an internal audit attached. I watched him scramble, making mistakes he couldn't hide. Every action was being monitored, every false claim traced back to him. By the end of the week, it was clear he was struggling. The same confidence, the same arrogance that had allowed him to manipulate others before, now crumbled. Every small error became evidence of incompetence. Every hesitation a reminder that he had no power here. Not anymore. And then came the moment I had been waiting for. I called him into my office again. "Mr. Carter, I've reviewed your work. Unfortunately, we don't believe you're a fit for Clear Ledger." He blinked. Shock, confusion. "But," I thought, "I'm sorry. Perhaps you should consider other opportunities," I said gently. But behind my calm voice, I felt the satisfaction of years of patience and perseverance. I didn't gloat. I didn't yell. I let him leave with his dignity slightly intact, but fully aware that he had no power over me now. That was enough. Later that night, I reflected on everything. I realized revenge wasn't about making him suffer publicly. It wasn't about humiliating him like he had done to me. It was about rising above, building something stronger, and letting justice unfold naturally. Sometimes, the most satisfying victories aren't loud. They're silent, calculated, and complete. And as I looked around my office at the thriving company I had built with honesty and integrity, I finally felt peace. I watched him leave and felt a weight lift off my shoulders. But the story didn't end there. Over the next few weeks, Carter tried everything he could to get back into my life. Emails, calls, even reaching out to mutual contacts. Each attempt reminded me of the man he used to be, desperate, entitled, and convinced the world owed him respect. I ignored most of his messages. Some I answered politely, never letting my tone betray the years of anger I had felt. Others I simply deleted, letting the silence speak louder than words ever could. It was strange, watching him struggle to find footing while I thrived. I had built a life on honesty and persistence, while he clung to shortcuts and manipulation. One afternoon I received a call from one of my company's biggest clients. They wanted a meeting to discuss expanding our services. I prepared for it meticulously, as always, running through every detail and anticipating every question. That night, as I reviewed my notes, I realized how far I had come. No threats, no lies, just competence and integrity. My former boss could never replicate that. Then came the unexpected twist. A competitor, someone who had previously poached clients from Westridge Dynamics, reached out with an offer for collaboration. And they mentioned Carter. They had been trying to hire him for months, but after seeing his record, they had reservations. He had no credibility left. The very reputation he had destroyed for his own gain now blocked him from every opportunity. I felt a strange sense of satisfaction, not the kind that comes from revenge, but from witnessing the natural consequences of actions. Carter had built his career on deception, and the same deception now kept him from moving forward. It was poetic in its own way. One evening I ran into Emma in the office. "You look different," she said softly. I smiled. Different how? Calm, confident, like you're finally free. I realized she was right. Freedom didn't come from forcing someone to suffer. Freedom came from reclaiming your life, your career, and your dignity. Carter had taken my job, yes, but he hadn't taken my resolve. And now, every success I achieved was mine and mine alone. Weeks later, an unexpected email appeared in my inbox. Carter, once again, asking for help. He was facing financial troubles, his ventures failing, and he had nowhere to turn. I read the email carefully, the words practically pleading for assistance. I didn't need to respond. I didn't need to punish him directly. Life had done it for me. His pride, arrogance, and dishonesty had caught up with him in the end. And watching that unfold silently gave me a deeper satisfaction than any confrontation ever could. By the end of that year, ClearLedger had grown threefold. Clients praised our transparency, our integrity, and the honest solutions we provided. Every project, every meeting, every success was a testament to what honesty and perseverance could achieve. I often think back to the day I was fired. The humiliation, the betrayal, the anger. It all feels like a distant memory now. Not because it didn't hurt, but because it taught me something invaluable. Integrity cannot be stolen, and hard work paired with honesty always prevails in the long run. Sometimes, revenge isn't about making someone pay. Sometimes it's about becoming so strong, so competent, and so unshakable that the universe does the work for you. And as for Mr. Carter, he eventually disappeared from the industry entirely. No emails, no calls, no influence, just a cautionary tale of arrogance and dishonesty, while I built something lasting from the very ashes he tried to burn me in. Months passed, and life settled into a rhythm I had never experienced before. ClearLedger Technologies wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. My team was loyal, hardworking, and genuinely passionate. I finally understood what real leadership felt like, guiding people with respect, listening, and fostering trust. Then one day, during a routine client meeting, a familiar face appeared in the lobby. Carter. He was older now, his confident swagger replaced by nervous energy. He approached cautiously, clearly unsure of how I would react. "Daniel," he said, voice low, I need your help." I studied him silently. Every word, every gesture reminded me of the pain he had caused, the sleepless nights, the endless applications, the blacklisting. But I also remembered how far I had come. "Mr. Carter," I said slowly, "you understand that Clear Ledger values honesty above all, correct?" "Yes, yes, of course," he stammered. "I've learned my lesson. I don't know where else to turn." I nodded, but not kindly. Instead, I said, "I appreciate your honesty, but unfortunately, we're not able to accommodate your request." He blinked, shock crossing his face. "Not at all?" "Not at all," I replied, calm and firm. "Life has a way of teaching lessons. I hope this one serves you well." He left the building quietly, defeated, and as I watched him go, I felt a strange mix of emotions, not hatred, not revenge, but a profound sense of closure. For the first time in years, I truly felt free. That evening, I walked around the office, reflecting on everything. Betrayal had once defined my life, but now, perseverance, integrity, and patience had reshaped it. I thought about all the people who had doubted me, laughed at me, or tried to tear me down. They had all played a part in this moment. Without the pain, without the loss, I might never have built what I had. A few weeks later, Clear Ledger landed a partnership with a multinational company. The news spread quickly, and the industry began to recognize us as a trustworthy, innovative company. My former colleagues, including some who had once laughed at my firing, started to reach out, not for revenge, but for collaboration. I smiled as I replied to their messages, not with malice, but with the calm assurance that comes from knowing you've earned your place in the world honestly. And Carter? He never returned. Rumor had it he tried several small ventures, but none succeeded. The same manipulation and arrogance that had once elevated him now prevented him from finding stability. Life had corrected itself. Sometimes, people assume revenge must be dramatic, public, and loud. But real justice often comes quietly. It comes from rising above, building your own life, and letting the consequences of someone else's choices unfold naturally. Watching Carter struggle silently while I flourished felt infinitely more satisfying than any confrontation could have been. I often share my story now with aspiring entrepreneurs, emphasizing one key lesson: integrity and perseverance always win. There will be people who betray you, cheat you, and try to destroy your dreams. But staying true to yourself, building your skills, and maintaining honesty can create a life far stronger than any temporary loss inflicted by others. In the end, I didn't just survive being fired. I thrived. I didn't just reclaim my career. I built an empire. And the person who once held all the power over me, he now works for no one, remembers no victories, and serves as a quiet reminder that honesty and patience are more powerful than deceit and pride. I never sought revenge in the way most people imagine. Instead, I became the proof that the truth, hard work, and integrity can outlast betrayal. And as I sit in my office today watching my team grow, my company succeed, and my life flourish, I realize one thing clearly. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about showing them exactly what they lost by underestimating you. Over the next few months, Clear Ledger continued to grow at an astonishing pace. We signed more clients than ever before, expanded our team, and even opened a new office downtown. Each milestone was a reminder of how far I had come, from being fired, humiliated, and blacklisted, to becoming a respected entrepreneur with a thriving company. One afternoon, Emma approached me with a folder. "Daniel, you might want to see this," she said, handing it over. I opened it and froze. Inside were news clippings and financial reports showing that Westridge Dynamics, the very company that had fired me, was now struggling. Their investors were pulling out, employees were leaving, and their reputation had taken a massive hit due to mismanagement and continued dishonesty. I couldn't help but feel a quiet satisfaction. Not because I wanted them to fail, but because the truth had a way of coming full circle. The same company that had humiliated me, the same man who had tried to destroy my career, was now facing the consequences of their own deceit. Later that evening, I received an unexpected call. It was Carter. His voice was shaky. "Daniel, I need advice. Things aren't going well. I made mistakes. Big mistakes." I took a deep breath. Part of me wanted to hang up. Part of me wanted to lash out. But I reminded myself of the path I had chosen. I wanted no part in his recovery, only in my own growth. "Mr. Carter," I said calmly, "I hope you find a way to learn from your mistakes. That's all I can say." I didn't offer solutions. I didn't give him sympathy. I simply ended the call. And in that moment I realized something profound. True power isn't about controlling others or getting revenge. It's about rising above, building your life, and letting reality take care of the rest. Carter had once held all the power over me. Now I didn't need to do anything. Life had spoken for itself. Over the next year I focused entirely on ClearLedger. We developed innovative software solutions, gained international clients, and even won awards for transparency and ethical business practices. Every success was a quiet victory, a testament to the fact that integrity and perseverance always pay off. Occasionally I would hear whispers about Carter, that he had moved out of the city, that he had tried other ventures and failed, that he had lost everything he once controlled. Each time I didn't celebrate. I simply acknowledged it quietly. His downfall was not mine to enforce. It was simply the natural result of his own choices. I began mentoring young professionals, sharing my story about being fired for honesty and the journey that followed. I emphasized one core lesson. Betrayal and unfairness may happen, but they cannot define you unless you allow them to. The real victory comes from rising above, reclaiming your power, and staying true to your values. One day, as I walked through the bustling office, I looked at my team. They were laughing, collaborating, and innovating, everything I had dreamed of when I first started. I realized then that the best revenge had already been achieved. It wasn't about Carter or the humiliation or the lost years. It was about building something greater, something lasting, and doing it with honesty and integrity. And so, life continued. ClearLedger thrived, my team flourished, and I finally felt the freedom I had been searching for all those years. The man who had once fired me and tried to destroy my career had no power over me, and never would again. I learned something essential through this journey. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in confrontation. It's in your own growth, your own success, and the silent knowledge that you've outlasted the storm. The people who betray you will eventually see the consequences of their actions, and when they do, you'll already be standing far above, stronger than ever. By the time I looked back, it was clear how far I had come. The man who once fired me and tried to destroy my career had no power over me anymore. ClearLedger thrived, my team flourished, and I had built a life grounded in honesty, integrity, and perseverance. Carter's attempts to regain influence had failed. His ventures collapsed, and his reputation crumbled under the weight of his own choices. I never needed to confront him directly. Life had done it quietly, naturally. What I learned through all of this is simple. Betrayal and injustice can hurt deeply, but they don't define you unless you let them. True power comes from rising above, building something lasting, and living a life that proves your worth beyond anyone's lies. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about showing them exactly what they lost by underestimating you. And in my case, that silent, unwavering success became the ultimate answer.